Governor Jindal, I do want to bring you in. I want to turn to a story in the news today. A 14-year-old Muslim high school student in Texas was arrested on Monday for bringing a homemade clock to school after it was mistaken for a fake bomb. Police released the young man after they determined it was, in fact, a clock. Today, President Obama invited that student to the White House. Governor Jindal, throughout your campaign, you've spoken many times about Muslim extremists in this country. How would you, as president, strike a balance between vigilance and discrimination?
Well, Jake, look, I think the American people, we don't discriminate against anybody based on the color of their skin or their creed. I think the way you strike that balance, you say to Muslim leaders, they've got two responsibilities. One, it's not enough to denounce just simply generic acts of violence. They've got to denounce the individuals by name and say these aren't martyrs. These terrorists are not martyrs. Rather, they're going straight to hell. They're not going to enjoy a reward in their afterlife. Secondly, they have to explicitly embrace the same freedoms for everybody else they want for themselves. Look, I know it's politically incorrect to say this. The president says Fort Hood was an issue of workplace violence. We're at war with radical Islam. Our president loves to apologize for America. He goes to the National Prayer Breakfast, brings up the Crusades, criticizes Christians. We're at war today with radical Islamic extremists. It's not politically correct to say that, but the way you strike that balance, you say to Muslim leaders, denounce these fools, these radical terrorists by name, say they're not martyrs.
Governor Jindal, I'm afraid you didn't answer the question. How do you strike the balance between vigilance and discrimination? Obviously, we know how you feel about the vigilance part of this. Do you ever see the discrimination part of it?
Sure. I don't think a 14-year-old should ever get arrested for bringing a clock to school. So if you ask me, am I glad he wasn't he was released? I'm glad that police are careful. I'm glad they're worried about security and safety issues. Look, in America, we don't tolerate, right now, the biggest discrimination going on is against Christian business owners and individuals who believe in traditional forms of marriage. They're throwing this woman in jail in Kentucky. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the Christian florist, the caterer, the musician who simply want to say, don't arrest us for having or don't discriminate against us, don't shut down our businesses, don't fine us thousands of dollars for believing marriage is between a man and a woman. Let's talk about not discriminating against Christians.
We will get to that subject later in the debate. Senator Graham.
Well, you know, Kim Davis, I'm not worried about her attacking me. I am worried about radical Islamic terrorists who are already here planning another 9/11. We're at war, folks. I'm not fighting a crime. I want to have a legal system that understands the difference between fighting a war and fighting a crime. And here's the reality. Young men from the Mideast are different than Kim Davis. And we've got to understand that.
Thank you, Senator.
Islamic websites need to be monitored. And if you're on one, I want to know what you're doing.
Governor Jake, if I can comment on this. Yes, Kim Davis is different from Islamist radicals from the Middle East. But on the other hand, we have one rule of law in America. And an elected official can't say that I'm not going to follow that law if it conflicts with my beliefs. I think she should have been fired, and if she'd worked for me, I would have fired her. We have to uphold the rule of law.
Thank you, Governor.
Imagine 1 minute, Jake, imagine 1 minute, that was a Muslim who said that I don't believe in gay marriage and refused to perform that wedding. We wouldn't have had that outrage. There is a place where the religion supersedes the rule of law. It's called Iran. It shouldn't be the United States.
And we will get to that subject.